What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I'm back to you guys with another video. This video, I'm here with my AFC South 2021 NFL draft grades, doing my draft grades for all 32 NFL teams division by division. We already did the AFC North. Make sure that you guys go ahead and check that out. Also, make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Listen, after the NFL draft from May to August is where I feel like I do some of my best work. I think that I have some of the best offseason content on YouTube. I go in-depth team by team, breaking down position groups, what to expect from new offensive coordinators, new defensive coordinators, who could be the breakout players. I have some very good off-season content on this channel, and I hope that you guys would subscribe if you are a diehard football fan like me and you love football and you're passionate about football the same way I'm passionate about football. We also talk about college football on this channel as well, so make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel if you love football just as much as I love football. So when you look at the AFC South, I feel like the AFC South overall as a division had a pretty decent draft. Let's start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, I gave them an A-. Now, everybody, if you watch my first round draft grades, you guys knew that I was not really high on the Travis Etienne selection. And I was talking to a couple of my homeboys who are Jacksonville Jaguar fans because, by the way, I happen to live in the city of Jacksonville, so I do follow the Jacksonville Jaguars more than I follow the majority of teams in the NFL. So I was telling them about how I didn't like the Travis Etienne pick. They were telling me how I was disrespecting the Jaguars, how they now have the best backfield, one of the best 1-2 punches at the halfback position in the NFL with Travis Etienne and James Robinson. And I can understand that. But my thing is, okay, you had other positions of needs that had to be addressed. You could have used that to pick a safety, a edge rusher, a defensive lineman, but instead used that to select the halfback when you could have gotten that later. And this is what they told me. They say, okay, so who do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars will select in the second round, and what are the position groups that you think the Jacksonville Jaguars need to select in other rounds? I told them cornerback and defensive tackle. They say, okay, wait until the second and third rounds and then come back and tell me your grade about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Lord and behold, okay, the Jacksonville Jaguars select cornerback Tyson Campbell, 33rd overall. You select offensive tackle Walker Little out of Stanford. You select safety Andre Cisco. You select defensive tackle Jay Tafuli from USC. So the Jacksonville Jaguars did address all of their needs in the later rounds, and the players that they selected, I am really high on. I'm really high on Walker Little out of Stanford. I'm really high on Andre Cisco. I love him a lot. And Tyson Campbell, I had him mocked to the Jacksonville Jaguars in my first Jacksonville Jaguars mock draft. So the Travis Etienne pick, okay, I still don't agree with it, but it does look a little bit better, well, a lot better now that the Jacksonville Jaguars have addressed all of their positions of need, which is why I'm giving them an A-. Even though I still am not on board the Travis Etienne pick, overall, they had a really great draft, and I think one of the biggest steals is going to be wide receiver Jalen Camp from Georgia Tech. He has a lot of athletic upside, but he doesn't really have a lot of college production to match it. I think he could be a really good late round still for Jacksonville, depending on what he does throughout fall camp for Jacksonville. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts, I gave them an A- as well. The Colts had a really good draft. Okay, you select edge rusher Kwity Paye, 21st overall. Then you select defensive tackle Day Ondingbo from Vanderbilt. So the Indianapolis Colts put a lot of emphasis on building up their defensive line, which was a big question mark going into this offseason, was going to be how was the Indianapolis Colts going to address the defensive line. They actually are walking away from this draft better than what they were prior. Okay, I think Kwity Paye was really overrated heading into this draft class because a lot of people kept on saying that he was the best pass rusher in this draft class, even though he didn't have off the charts production and things like that. I just didn't really see Kwity Paye as being the best edge rusher in this draft class. And you've been watching this channel for pretty much the whole entire draft process. You guys will heard me pretty much the whole entire time that Jalen Phillips was the best edge rusher and that he should be the first edge rusher taken off the board. Jalen Phillips ended up getting drafted before Kwity Paye. So you look at Kwity Paye, I think he has a lot of potential. Okay, obviously you see the freak athleticism that he possesses. He has has potential to become a 9-10 sack guy. So I'm going to be really interested in monitoring how he develops for the Indianapolis Colts and what is going to be the impact that he has on that Colts defense this year, along with DeForest Buckner. Then you got Dayo Debo from Vanderbilt. I like him a lot as well. He's another guy who has a lot of athletic upside to him. Then you select tight end Kalen Granson from SMU as well, with quarterback Sam Ehlinger. I believe that they played with each other at the same high school. Kalen Granson is one of the more underrated tight ends in this draft class because how good of a receiving threat he is. He runs pretty good routes. He has pretty solid speed for a tight end and really good hands as well. He reminds me a lot of Heath Miller when Heath Miller was in his prime playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you select safety Sean Davis out of Florida. Okay, I think Sean Davis, I think he's a little bit of a tweener. I think he has potential to be a okay safety. He reminds me more of a Trey Bostic kind of safety. I think he could be in that range a little bit. Then you also select offensive tackle Will Fries from Penn State in the 7th round. So I feel like the Colts had a pretty good draft. I'm giving them an A-. Some people may think that I'm giving the Colts a little bit too high of a grade. A lot of people may give the Colts a B+ or somewhere around B. But I think the Colts had a really good draft. You improve the defensive line. Most importantly, you get a good tight end in Kalen Granson. I think the Colts had a really good draft. I'm going to stick with my grade of giving them an A-. The Tennessee Titans had the best draft out of every team in the AFC South. Okay, you got cornerback Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley was a top 15 talent. He was one of the best cornerbacks, and he was supposed to be like a top 10 selection prior to the draft process, but then he had injury concerns. He had the back problems, which scared off a lot of teams. And 2 days before the NFL draft, there was a rumor circulating around that Caleb Farley could drop tremendously, because you got to think, 2 weeks ago, Caleb Farley was projected to be one of the top corners taken off the board. He was supposed to go right after Patrick Surtain. Well, he ends up falling all the way down to 22nd to Tennessee, and Tennessee knocked him up. And I think this is a really big pickup for Tennessee. He's probably going to start on player unable to perform list until he gets really healthy. But when he gets on the field, this guy's going to be a stud. Tennessee's secondary was awful last year, okay? Like, their secondary had a lot of talent there. You look at Adoree Jackson. You look at Malcolm Butler. You look at all the time that they had on defense in general. They just completely underperformed. A big reason for that was because they had a lack of pass rush. And the secondary also wasn't great as well. Well, you get Caleb Farley 22nd overall. That's definitely going to be a big improvement in the boss of your secondary. On top of that, in the 2nd round, you select offensive tackle Dylan Rundis out of North Dakota State. You get linebacker Monte Rice out of Georgia in the 3rd round. I think Monte Rice is a very good scheme fit for Tennessee. He's not, a flashy player. He's not going to make a lot of flashy plays, but he's smart, he's intelligent, and he is a really tough and gritty linebacker, which is what Mike Vrabel probably wants out of his defense. Then you select cornerback Elijah Molden. Elijah Molden can play both corner and he can play safety as well, so you get versatility there. I do wonder if he can play outside corner. I would like to see Tennessee try him out outside corner. Don't really know how effective he would be at outside corner, but I think he'll be pretty solid. But I think he does have the potential to be a really good slot cornerback in the league. Everybody on their team needs to have a hybrid corner, a corner that can play slot and can also play safety as well. That's what you're getting out of Elijah Molden. Then you get Rashad Weaver in the 4th round. I think Rashad Weaver was the most scheme-dependent player out of all the edge rushers. It really depends on what scheme he went to. And I think him going to Tennessee is a really good pickup. And I think that's a really good team fit. I think they're going to get the most out of him. So the last team we got to talk about the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans didn't really have a lot of draft picks. And I don't really like what they did with the few amount of draft picks they selected, okay? Like, with their first selection, they selected quarterback out of Stanford, Davis Mills. Wasn't on board with that. I felt like you should have went ahead and drafted the impact player in the 3rd round. I think you should have selected a player who you knew was going to have a big impact or could have a big impact on how your season's going to go. I understand Deshaun Watson may not suit up this year doing what's going on with his current investigation and his legal problems off the field, but I really feel like Davis Mills wasn't the right pick for Houston. I felt like you should have used your first selection to select the impact player, and you got Tyrod Taylor. He probably going to start over Davis Mills. I don't really see why they selected Davis Mills with their first selection. They should have selected a guy who they knew was going to have an immediate impact or had the chance of having an immediate impact. Wide receiver Nico Collins was their second selection. I like him a lot. Okay, I think he can have a pretty productive rookie season depending on how he performs, depending on where he ends up on the depth chart. Now, I think their best pick overall was tight end Brevin Jordan out of Miami. Now, yes, I am biased because I am a Miami Hurricane fan, but I feel like Brevin Jordan really should have went in the second and third round. This guy is the second most athletic tight end in this draft class behind Kyle Pitts. This guy, I think, is going to fit in well with Houston, and he's probably going to end up becoming one of the better tight ends in the NFL. I like that pick a lot. So for Houston, I have to give them a B-. Wasn't really all that impressed with their draft. I wanted to give them a C, but it wasn't all that bad. I just felt like with Davis Mills there, you should have went a guy who's going to have a bigger impact. You also didn't really improve the secondary. You don't really address the concerns that you have at the pass rush position either. So I got to stick with the B. So this is it for my AFC South 2021 NFL draft grades. Let me know what you guys think about them down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And